his line.
Hi, Joyce at Delightful Quilting and Sewing, a Knowlton dealer in Avon, New York. Today we're going to talk about the wicking issue. Now this is not a candle wick. This has to do with this kind of stuff that we swept up from underneath the long arm. These are all kinds of little dust bunnies that come from quilting, and depending on the batting that you're using and the fabric and the thread, you may get more or less of them. And if you are following your procedure well, you need to be blowing out with canned air or a small air compressor the dust bunnies that are building up in your hook assembly every time you change your bobbin. So what's the problem with dust bunnies? Well, this is what it is right here. So I have a little demonstration for you. I prepared a little bit of colored water here, and I'm going to just put a little bit on my saucer. And you've seen that advertisement, I'm sure, on television for a particular brand of paper towel, and that's what happens with that. It just wicks it right up. And I'll do this with some of the dust bunnies here, some of the fuzz, and it's harder to see that because it's gray, but if you look closely at it, it is also soaking that up. So that's with water and blue dye. Right here, I'll put a little drop of oil on the table, and when I put the paper towel over top of it, you can see that right away it starts wicking right up into the paper towel. And if I put some of the dust bunny down there, the same thing happens as well. And this, when you get, after it sits in the oil just briefly, you can see that it's soaked up the oil. Well, this is the same thing that happens inside of the hook of your long arm. So what happens in here, a little bit of dust, a little bit of lint, a little bit of dust, a little bit of lint, and you may be adding some oil to it, but is the oil being effective? We have a rotating part here around a solid part now. In your machine, it looks just like this right here. This little notch is at the top, and then the hook part right here rotates around like that. And with every stitch, it's going around a couple of times to go around to make the stitch. So there's a lot of movement in here. And when you get some lint in here and you put oil in there, well, you hope that the oil is lubricating your moving parts, but they may not necessarily be lubricating it. So it's really, really important to keep this area clean. And that's why I recommend canned air for blowing the lint out of that area. You can actually seize this up if it doesn't have enough lint or enough lubrication in here. I had one instance where someone called me and she had never ever oiled her hook in 6 years that she had her machine, and it actually was beginning to seize up on her. She had to push the hand wheel to get her machine to start because it was so tight in here without lubrication. So the important thing here is, number one, you want to blow out your hook assembly with canned air, get it up in there. You could use a lint brush, I suppose, but it's definitely not as effective as using canned air, because you can point the little air nozzle up and around there and get it out really good. You also need to know how to lubricate your hook. So in our book, Guide to Quilting with Your Knowlting, on page 62, we talk about lubricating the hook assembly. So this is how you're going to do it. Over here in the Pro, regardless of whether you have whatever machine you have, the important thing is you're going to turn the hand wheel or use your needle down feature and put the needle all the way down. And this rotates the hook shield to the bottom of the hook assembly right there. So you can see right here, this is the hook shield, and when I rotated it with a needle down, this came to the bottom. The place to be oiling it is right up against 7 o'clock, right there. You go into the, up close to the vertical surface, resting it on the hook shield, and you're going to put in 1 or 2 drops of oil. After you do that, if your machine is not on, turn the hand wheel a few times to distribute that oil in there. And you do this after you've cleaned out any of the dust bunnies so that it's clean in there and the oil isn't absorbed by the dust and the lint, but it goes into the rotating part inside of the machine. So keeping your machine well lubricated is very, very important. Do not worry about putting too much oil down in the hook assembly. You will not over oil it. It needs a lot of oil because there's a moving part there that goes around and around and around and around every stitch that you take. And if you take thousands and thousands of stitches, it needs lots of oil down there. So remember, load out with canned air and lubricate it every 2 or 3 bobbins at the most. One of the things that I look for is if I'm getting a lot of lint out of that area, when I take my bobbin out and put a new one in, I will oil it, clean it and oil it at that time. It always gets cleaned anyway with canned air between every bobbin. But if I'm getting a lot of lint out of that, then I will definitely oil it every time if I need to. I want to keep my machine working at its top peak performance, and that's one of the ways that you can do it. So that's it for today's Tech Tuesday. Don't forget to oil your machine on a regular basis, especially the hook. See you next time on Tech Tuesday.